All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk and John with you guys. Of course, there's a lot to get to in today's show, but the shooting in Florida is occupying everyone's mind, rightfully so. So let's just do it, John. Let's get to it, and of course, we'll give you the relevant context and then a little bit of rage.
Yeah. This is America, and so, of course, we've got another school shooting for you. Today, the target was Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and the situation is still developing, obviously. We actually just got one of the most recent facts right before going to air, but this is what we know so far. The shooter was a former student, a male. I believe the name has been announced as...
Yeah, Nicholas Cruz.
Nicholas Cruz. So far, and much more importantly, 2 people are reported dead on the scene, and at least 14 others have been injured, although those numbers are probably going to change. This is a school of about 3,000 students, and obviously this has traumatized that community. Those people's lives will never be the same after this. I mean, if you've been on social media, you've seen some of the footage that was being sent up by students inside of the school when it was being locked down. People were tweeting video and statements, and it was, as it always is, absolutely devastating to see. We're going to show you in just a little bit. You're seeing there some of the footage from outside of the school.
So Senator Bill Nelson from Florida has confirmed that several people have died. The casualty reports are anywhere from 14, if that's the number that John quoted for you. I've seen in a lot of news stories, all the way up to 20 to 50 in some of the reports. Now, when these shootings happen or a news event happens, the first 24 hours, you'll get a lot of things that get corrected later. So the number of casualties, I'm sure, will change, both the wounded and the killed. But it's obvious that it was an enormous mass shooting in this high school in Florida. It's good to see that they apprehended the shooter. He was a former student at the school. Another student at the South Florida high school said, quote, "He's been a troubled kid and has always had a certain amount of issues going on. He shot guns because he felt it gave him, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, an exhilarating feeling." And apparently he talked about how he knew the floor plans of the high school. Now, this is, again, early reporting here, but that's what one student said about the person he believed to be the shooter, and now authorities say the shooter is Cruz. So
in custody.
Yeah, and he's in custody. So this is the same pattern that we see a million times over. Someone who's disgruntled, a misfit, and again, another student describes him as someone that other people didn't want to be around too much, given how volatile he was. Looking for glory, looking for strength and power in a gun, and since of course we have hundreds of millions of guns in America, super easy to get one, super easy to access one. Any lunatic can grab it. Anyone looking for glory can grab it, whether it's a politically motivated shooting, whether it is, and that comes of all different stripes, or just someone looking to get into the news and get some glory. And here we are again, and you're never going to prevent it unless you do gun control. Now, you look, it doesn't matter. I don't care what your opinion is. And you, oh my God, but it's my hobby. Okay, my hobby's fantasy football. It doesn't kill anyone. Okay, so if your hobby kills tens of thousands of Americans every year, I don't know, maybe you should think about, hey, can I do my hobby in a way that doesn't lead to as many murders of children? Can I do that? Oh, but I'm fighting tyranny of the government. Really, are you? Who's used their gun to fight the tyranny of government recently? And if they have, they're probably in prison, or the cops probably rightfully shot them. So it's nonsense, and we're not asking to ban all guns, although I think a case could be made. No, they're asking for reasonable things like background checks. 93% of Americans agree with them. But no, not the corrupt politicians, because they get their blood money from the NRA, who are the real terrorists in America.
Yeah, we're going to add obviously a ton of context, and we need to, as we do so often, have to remind the people who might not know of how terrible this epidemic of mass shootings, not just shootings, mass shootings in this country actually are. But before we do that, we do want to go to a couple of videos from the scene. We have 2 students, witnesses to the shooting, giving their account of what happened, and here is the first.
Where were you when the shots rang out?
I was by the highway over there.
Yep. So happened you were on that side of campus?
Yeah.
And you knew immediately what was going on?
Yeah. No doubt. I heard it, I ran.
Have you been able to get a hold of your classmates or some of your friends?
My sister's still in there. She's texting me about it right now. She says to be quiet. And that's all I know right now.
Have you heard anything else in terms of how many people have been hurt? Or
I have no idea. I know one guy got shot in the leg. That's all I know. I heard my teacher got shot, my 9th grade teacher, but that's all I know right now.
Think about the terror in the hearts of those parents. I'm a parent. Jesus, if my daughter was stuck in that school, or your son or anyone, but every time politicians tells us thoughts and prayers, that's all we can give. Let's pray to a mythical God in the sky above who never comes to help us, because it isn't about him coming to help us. It's about whether we can logically pass laws in this country that 93% of Americans agree with. No, we don't have a democracy. We have nothing but goddamn corruption. So now, in this case, it was Broward County. Next time, it'll be in your area. It will. I've told you this, and every once in a while we get an email, we get tweets, we'll get them today again. Hey, Cenk, I remember when you said it'd be in my neck of the woods, and then it was. And then we had a shooting near my house, in my school, in my hospital, in my movie theater, etc. Because the shootings are nonstop. There's a mass shooting almost every single day in America, and they are coming for our kids, and we're helping them by giving everyone in the country a gun. If you have everyone in the country has a gun, you think what, we're all 100% mentally stable, the whole country? No, there's a lot of monsters among us. There's a lot of unstable people among us. There's people looking for glory among us. And we all go to, hey, hand out guns like candy. No one else does this across the world. And they don't have anywhere near the mass shootings and the murder rates that we do.
Yeah, well, Cenk, he's not just giving guns. We actually have a tweet from President Trump where he's giving something else. If we could bring this graphic up. He's giving prayers and condolences.
Oh, wow.
So that's good. It's the first time. I hope it works. It's a radical solution.
Spare me and spare the parents of this shooting and the next shooting about your prayers and condolences. You know what I would like instead? Laws and bills and legislation. We're supposed to live in a democracy. Can we just get a shred of gun regulation before we just hand them out to everyone and go, oh, look, oh my God, another school shooting, the 1000th in a row. Who could have seen it coming? I do. I'll tell you right now, there'll be another one, and another one, and another one. And one day, it's gonna be your kid's school. And if you voted against gun control and you say, oh no, but I like the murder deer in the woods or whatever I'm pretending to do, and my gun makes me feel like a bigger and better man, well, you're responsible. The NRA, you are deeply responsible. All those legislators, mainly Republican, but a lot of Democrats as well, that vote against gun control no matter what, even if you're on the terrorist watch list, even if you're mentally unstable, sometimes when you've already committed violent crimes, you're responsible if you vote against that. We live in a democracy. It is your fault, legislators, when you don't do gun control and our kids get murdered.
Cenk, the only reason I can think of that you're saying it's gonna continue to happen is because it happens literally almost every 2 days in this country. So we're gonna read you some stats now. This is not shootings, and this is not mass shootings, which when I was a kid were rare and big and newsworthy events. This is just school shootings. Just this year, there have been 18 or 19, depending on how you define it, which is almost one every 2 days, which means there's very little chance we're getting to the weekend without another school being the site of a shooting, just like what you saw in those videos. There's been 29 mass shootings, and I think that's probably a pretty tight definition there. Total 1,796 gun deaths this year. It's February this year, and over 3,000 gun injuries this year.
Okay, so that's in 6 weeks.
And it is totally acceptable to the vast majority of the people who have any power to do anything about it. Because they love to talk about how they're strong on security and defense, and they will spend every time you look at the news, military spending, it's another $20 billion, another $60 billion, another $160 billion. What's it being spent on? Who the hell knows? I literally think that nobody in government or the military knows what it's being spent on. If we need to spend $20 billion on a wall, we should do that. Seems like based on Twitter activity today, we could save a hell of a lot of money by sending thoughts and prayers to the border, save $20 billion that way. So they love to talk about defense, but for the things that are actually threatening our country and our individuals, they don't care. Because of tiny amounts of donations they get from the NRA. They will take your child and they will put it on the altar of American gun worship, and they will do that literally every day if that's what is necessary.
So great point by John. So after 9/11, how many countries did we invade? How many trillions of dollars did we spend? How many thousands of US soldiers died? How many millions of innocent civilians died because of our reaction, because 3,000 people were killed? And boy, we were all in a rage, and we ought to have been. That's every 3 months in America. Gun violence. Every 3 months, you will have as many people that died on 9/11 will die from gun violence. But there, nothing. We won't invade anybody. We won't spend any money on defense contractors. No, it isn't about keeping you safe. It's about who gets paid. Now, when we got hit on 9/11, what happened? We blindly attacked Iraq. Afghanistan, at least that was the base for the people who attacked us. Iraq had nothing to do with it. But the defense contractors make tons of money. This instability in the Middle East. The oil companies make tons of money. Were you safer? No. Then Al-Qaeda, that was not in Iraq, came into Iraq and got larger. Then Al-Qaeda seemed like wimps next to ISIS, who then grew out of that conflict. Are we safer? No. But the people who bribe our politicians got richer. Now, in the case of guns, we are infinitely unsafe. Everyone is unsafe. You can get shot any minute of the day because the guy sitting next to you has a gun. If he doesn't have it on him, which he probably does, he has it at his house or he has it in his trunk. There's almost one gun per every person, not just adult, for every person in America. That's on average, okay? And yes, they do it to shootings and it terrorizes all of us and it makes us so much unsafer than any of the things they warned about. All that money that they just spent on defense, it was already at $600-700 billion. They added another $190 billion on top to keep us safe from what? Poland? From Canada? Who's about to invade us? No, the invasion is right here, right now. It's in a school in Florida. The terrorism right here, it's in a school in Florida. It's a school in Connecticut. It's a school in Colorado. It's a school all over the country. But it doesn't, none of the corrupt politicians get bribed to keep you safe. They get bribed by gun manufacturers to keep on killing you and your kids. So wherever the money is, that's where these corrupt politicians go. So it's not about keeping you safe. That's just a trick.
Yeah.
In reality, all of us are terrorized every single day, but the politicians keep getting their money, their blood money.
Well, actually, we have something on that, so why don't we turn to that? I do eventually want to get to Representative Chris Murphy, but the reason, one of the reasons that we don't have any progress here is that you have some portion of the country that's making money off of this, and then you have another portion that is just plain evil or insane or a combination of the two. We're going to turn to the money first. This is a tweet earlier this morning. NRA retweeted a tweet from a gun maker encouraging people to buy their loved ones guns for Valentine's Day. Since the shooting, they took it down and have gone silent. He had a screenshot, which we now have, that we can turn to. That's lovely. I'm going to be celebrating Valentine's Day later. I never thought about giving her a gun. But the NRA, which for decades and decades was an organization designed around gun training and that sort of thing, now is just social media for gun manufacturers to try to make them a little bit more money on every single holiday. I'm sure that they'll have a St. Patrick's Day ad. Maybe they'll have a turkey next to a gun for Thanksgiving. They can have an elf posing with a couple of guns for Christmas. It's going to be delightful. They'll make a bunch of money, and the great thing is they'll make more money tomorrow. There are people going and buying guns right now because they're so scared of the fact that everybody has guns. It's a wonderful system they've set up.
Yay, murder a loved one for Valentine's Day. That's so cute by the terrorists at the NRA.
And they've gone silent. One of my favorite tweets today was this political comedy person on Twitter who posted, I'd like to congratulate the NRA's social media manager for their upcoming 6-day weekend. Because they're going to be gone and you're not going to hear anything, and then they'll go back to pushing guns.
The only thing you'll ever hear from the corrupt politicians who are bought by the NRA is, this is not the time. This is not, no, the last shooting wasn't the time either, and Columbine wasn't the time, and Newton wasn't the time, and you name it, there's a billion of them. The mass shooting in a church in Texas, that wasn't the time. The mass shooting at a club in Orlando, that wasn't the time.
Not with Dylan Roof, don't want to do it then.
No, none of it, it's never the time, and guess what it's going to be today? Guess what, Republican politicians all in unison will be screaming, not the time. Not the time to politicize this. No. Instead, where's my money, NRA? Hey, terrorists, where are my money? I'm going to take money from these terrorists called the NRA.
We have another school shooting in, on average, 50 hours. So between now and the next shooting in 50 hours, where are we supposed to have that conversation? Is it at the 25-hour mark? Do I have, at some point tomorrow afternoon, we can bring it up maybe?
So, look, the people who love guns, and it makes them feel stronger because they're weak. And they go, oh no, but it's my hobby or whatever it is, and it's my Second Amendment right. And once the tyranny is you guys shooting us. That's the tyranny, okay? But the tyranny of the government, I'm going to stand up to them in the woods, and they'll never get me, and whatever the insane crap you believe, okay? And then they'll say stupid stuff like, well, a car could kill someone, and it has. It's run over people. That's right. But a car has another purpose: to drive, get us from point A to point B. Even an axe has a different purpose. Okay, you could use it to kill someone. You could also use it to chop down a tree. A gun, its only point is to kill things. You say, well, look, I like to have fun. I like to use my AK-47 or my AR-15 to butcher deer in my local woods because I'm incompetent and I can't hunt like a real hunter. So I just bum, 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 and see whatever the hell happens. But it's not about the deer. It makes me feel good. So when they send out these cutesy Valentine's Day gifts of guns, it isn't so you can drive somewhere. It isn't so you can chop down a tree. It's, hey, take this just in case you'd like to kill something. Wow, sweet. What a lovely Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Well, why don't we turn to this other video? If you can prep video 6. So literally as the news was breaking in this story, Representative Chris Murphy from my home state, who very often has spoken I would say in a very heartfelt manner about the epidemic of mass shootings and school shootings in this country, was on the floor house on an unrelated issue and decided to talk about this. So we'd like to show you an excerpt of that now.
Turn on your television right now, you're going to see scenes of children running for their lives. What looks to be the 19th school shooting in this country, and we have not even hit March. I'm coming to the floor to talk about something else, but let me just note once again for my colleagues that this happens nowhere else other than the United States of America. This epidemic of mass slaughter, this scourge of school shooting after school shooting. It only happens here not because of coincidence, not because of bad luck, but as a consequence of our inaction. We are responsible for a level of mass atrocity that happens in this country with zero parallel anywhere else. As a parent, it scares me to death that this body doesn't take seriously the safety of my children. And it seems like a lot of parents in South Florida are going to be asking that same question later today. We pray for the families, for the victims. We hope for the best.
And how many times have we sat at this desk and done this story? I mean, the nouns are different, but it's the same story. The numbers are slightly different, but it's the same story. And we've been doing it for years. I mean, obviously you've been doing it for far longer, but like, I know a lot of people think after the lack of response from Sandy Hook that, well, that's it for America. We had a good run. We can't be held responsible to take care of ourselves. But I thought maybe there's some other things that could happen. And then you look at some of the shootings that happened and were unimaginable tragedies and nothing happened after. I mean, if Pulse can happen and nothing happens, if the shooting in Vegas at Mandalay Bay can happen and nothing happens, if someone could go into a church and gun down people at a church in America and nothing happens.
Over and over again.
Over and over, many of them. But I mean, even once in America, if that doesn't trigger a response from America, I don't know if I can come up with something that could at this point. I mean, congressmen were shot at and it did nothing. At this point, other than literally the State of the Union being shot up, I can't imagine what could possibly cause the country to move in action. You can shoot, there's nothing you can imagine. No mass shooting, no school shooting, no church shooting. You could shoot up an airport, you can shoot up anything you want, and America will not act. And we have now tested all of those cases. They're not hypotheticals anymore. We've run through every iteration of this as a country, and we've failed in every case.
So the only two beefs I had with Chris Murphy's speech there, which was a great speech, and I'm glad someone in Congress cares, is he said, it's our fault, we have failed. No, not we. You should have called them out by their names. Chris Murphy voted the right way every time on this issue. You should say Orrin Hatch, the bloodthirsty senator from Utah who takes NRA money and has taken it for decades, is responsible. He didn't want gun control, and your kids in Florida are dead. Name them all. Go through the John Cornyn, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, all the people who took blood money from the NRA, and now your kids are dead because they won't ever do gun control. Doesn't matter what the percentages are. I keep telling you, 93% of Americans wanted federal background checks as one example of the smallest little gun control you could do. And all of those Republicans voted no. Some Democrats as well, but mainly, overwhelmingly, Republicans. So, don't politicize. I already got a tweet saying, they haven't even counted the bodies. How dare you? How dare you? Hey, let me ask you something, you total scam artist, phony. All of you right-wingers who cling to your guns because of your lack of manlyhood, okay, and whatever it is that drives you to be so afraid, I need my gun, I'm nothing without my gun. I'm such a pathetic little man without my gun. All of you guys, you say, don't talk now when people are dying. No, don't talk now, that seems wrong. If it's an act of terrorism from certain places, talk right away, and let's go kill all of them, right? Okay, but don't talk now. So then let me ask you something. When did the Republicans talk? When did you talk? Did you wait 2 or 3 days and then say, God damn it, let's do gun control? I love guns. It has nothing to do with my manlyhood. Cenk, that's completely unfair. I love murdering deer in the woods and you don't get it. And one day, 78 years from now, I'm gonna stand up to tyranny and you don't get it, Cenk. So, but I am for reasonable gun control and I acted and I held my politicians accountable. When they took blood money from the NRA, funded by gun manufacturers who love this, they're celebrating, they're high-fiving right now gun manufacturers because gun sales are going to increase after the shooting as they do after every shooting. So did you hold them accountable 2 days later, 3 days later, 2 weeks later, 2 months later? No, you never held them accountable because it's a trick, because you actually don't want to hold anyone accountable.
I got 2 words for you, bump stocks.
We can't even get bump stocks.
What Republicans are fucking talking about, it's been months. It's been months. It's only designed to kill as many deer as possible in a short, sorry, that's stupid. Obviously it's designed to kill a crowd of humans. That's what it was used for, that's what it's designed for. We can't ban that. If there were bullets that could literally only kill children, we couldn't ban them in America. It would be impossible.
Are you kidding me?
If there were bullets that were magnetically attracted to cops, we couldn't ban them in America.
No, but there are, John. Like, that is not a.
I know, the armor piercing, obviously.
No, it's not a hypothetical. Armor piercing bullets are not for deer, they don't have armor. And the regular citizen doesn't have armor. Armor piercing bullets are only meant to kill cops. We have special bullets to kill cops, and they won't ban them. And then they'll go around and do hashtag Blue Lives Matter. No, if they're beating up on black people, then all of a sudden, they're cops, way to go. Yeah, keep those black people down, right? Oh, you're getting murdered out there by armor-piercing bullets? I don't give a crap. Go ahead and die. What do I care? Cops, I don't give a crap about cops. That's what all you right-wingers say. You right-wingers hate cops because you allow those armor-piercing bullets to murder them. But no. The NRA spreads their money around. And so those terrorists gave us bribes. We got bribed by the terrorists at the NRA. So nope, I'm not gonna do anything about it. The Republican politicians aren't gonna do anything about it, and you right-wing clowns aren't gonna do anything about it. And one day, when it comes to your neighborhood, you're gonna cry, and you're gonna say, nobody could have seen this coming. Well, for the billionth time in a row, we see it coming. And the funny thing is, we're trying to look out for you. I know apparently you don't care about your neighbors, you don't care about your kids, you don't care about anyone in this community, but we do, including you. We're not trying to do gun control to stop your What did Mitt Romney say? He'd like to hunt vermin or whatever. He liked to rodents. He liked to. We're not trying to stop you from murdering rats or whatever that you think you're doing with your guns. We're trying to protect you and your family. Because if the more guns there are, it is an absolute provable statistical fact, the more deaths there are by gunfire. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure it out. And we can show you all the numbers comparing America, where we're drowning in guns, and every other country that has gun control, where they don't have mass shootings.
Yeah, it does not take a scientist to show it, but just in case, scientists have shown it. So I retweeted Trace Dominguez, a YouTuber from the network Seeker, who did a tweet compiling a number of different studies correlating with the correlation between the number of guns and the number of shootings and the disparity between our country and others. So if you feel if common sense isn't enough, if you have to see the scientific evidence, there's an abundance of it.
All right, let's take a break.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll do other stories when we come back. All right, back on the Young Turks. Look, I get worked up on these stories. So as I was telling John during the break, I'm pretty sure I said manlyhood a couple of times. That's manhood. Newton is in Massachusetts. Newtown is in Connecticut. And on to serious matters, unfortunately, there are not 2 dead. There are now, what, 17 dead?
Yeah, we're gonna have more details at the top of the second hour about that.
Dr. Chaos MD writes in, the US is where failed ideas go to thrive, privately financed elections, endless war, trickle-down economics, profit-based healthcare, thoughts and prayers instead of common sense gun legislation, etc. Excellent point. And then Chris Allen writes in, when will pro-life protesters leave the abortion clinics and protest the NRA?
Seems unlikely.
Pretty great point, but no.
And super fast, I know that some people, including some progressives, get mad when we talk about the thoughts and prayers. Obviously, like for regular people that are just trying to, that have no power to control this, we understand that there are people who are religious, people who are progressive and religious, that this is what they can offer and so they do. We're not mocking that. We're mocking the people who substitute any action whatsoever under the cloak of the money that they have been bought with to get them to not act. They do the thoughts and prayers, obviously.
All right, now let me go to YouTube Super Chat, where there is a lot of comments today. Drew Wilson says, the worst part is that it doesn't matter if the shooter has a motive. Get pissed off, no problem. Go ahead and get guns and then kill people. That's right, doesn't matter what the motive is. And there's a different motive for everybody. It's irrelevant because they all have guns. Tara Styles says, thank you, TYT, for keeping me sane during this administration. Much love to KV Herfel, a member and Wolfpack volunteer, for convincing me to become a member. Please don't buy me a gun for Valentine's Day. Dylan Preston says, I was part of the Stoneman Douglas graduating class of 2016.
Oh, wow.
I can't stop shaking over this horrible loss of life. We need sensible gun control.
If it's 2016, then he probably knows people who are still at the school.
Probably knows this kid, the kid who did it.
That's possible. I mean, it's 3,000 students, but yeah, it's certainly possible.
The shooter's 19 years old and a former student, so Dylan almost certainly went to school with him. Somebody, that's the handle, writes in, yes, Cenk, drag those right-wing pieces of S. They are garbage. Andrew Williams says, I love you guys, but why did you use his name? This kid deserves zero glory. I'll tell you why, Andrew. We only use it on the first day and then we try not to use it. There are exceptions, like Dylan Roof, unfortunately, has become so common that it's hard to avoid. And we do the best we can. But on the first day, we use the person's name because everybody is obsessed with what nationality, ethnicity, and race they are. I'm keeping it real. So what do people want to know? Was it a Muslim? Oh, was it a Muslim? Everybody go back to thoughts and prayers. Who cares? There's nobody to invade. There's nobody to hate. We just go back, okay? Now sometimes people are obsessed, is the shooter white or not white? Who cares, right? But we give the name on the first day. We are a news organization, and then we try not to give it going forward.
Well, two things. If it's black or white, then if it's in a black school, we've been doing this forever. Those are thugs who carry guns that shouldn't have them. They're all illegal guns anyway. That's the battle lines drawn. We already know the Muslim versus white person. It's terrorism or it's just a random loner. John, with thoughts and prayers, the last thing on that is also, if you offer thoughts and prayers, it also, hate the term, but it disarms other people from saying, hey, F your thoughts and prayers, because now you're saying F you to your religion, F you to God, and anyone else that's any kind of this nice sentiment. So you're a bad guy now for not accepting their empty thoughts and prayers. Because thoughts and prayers should keep you from saying anything, because
That's a great.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's just it's a complex world, and there are people who agree with us on the vast majority of issues, but might be different on that.
But that's why
variable,
thoughts and prayers is the one, because it's disarming of anyone who says, "Hey, you're not doing anything."
And almost universally, when politicians do it, they know that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point by JR, and I never thought about that. It's meant to trick people who are decent, thoughtful people who want to convey some sort of empathy and sympathy towards the victims. They use your empathy against you.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, we're gonna be mixing it up, which is always tough after a story like that, but we're gonna do our best. Yesterday, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand announced that she would no longer be taking corporate PAC contributions in the future. And just late last night, the same day, she was joined by another, Senator Cory Booker, who tweeted this: "I heard from constituents today asking about corporate PAC contributions. I'm joining several of my colleagues in no longer accepting these contributions. Our campaign finance system is broken. I think at Stop Big Money for their work, it's time to pass campaign finance reform." And if you didn't see the announcement yesterday, just for context, Senator Gillibrand said, "I will no longer accept donations from corporate PACs, and I wanted to share why I've made that decision. I hope you'll join me in doing everything we can to fight to reform our broken campaign finance system." And she included a video message which we played on the show yesterday. It's online if you want to see it.
Okay, so Booker accepted $1.8 million from business PACs from 2013 to 2018. So this is no small thing. He's given up millions of dollars to do this, and I think
we hope.
Yeah,
assuming he does it.
Yeah,
but yes, he says he's going to.
No,
he says he's going to.
No, look. I don't want people to get overly skeptical, and I'll tell you what. Look, am I going to be naive? No. And yesterday we explained that Gillibrand is still taking other PAC money, union PAC money, single issue PAC money, but it makes, look, I would prefer no PAC money, no union money, no nothing, okay? But this is a great start, right?
Yeah.
And so if she cares about being pro-choice, she wants to take money from pro-choice, and Booker does the same. I understand, I prefer no PAC money, but we're on the road. And do politicians sometimes violate their pledge? Of course.
Greg Gianforte said he wasn't going to.
Exactly the example I was going to use. A Republican ran in Montana, had a progressive populist pushing him, almost lost the race. So in the middle of the race, he was caught, by the way, on a call with his donors, promising them something different than what he was telling the public. He's like, "Don't worry, I got your back, not the voters." And so he went on and said, "Oh, me, I'm not going to take any corporate PAC money, even though I'm a Republican." Good people in Montana, because people in Montana hate corruption, bless their hearts. So, and he's like, "No, I'm not taking," and then he gets into office, he's like, "I was just kidding, you idiots. I'm a Republican, of course I'm taking corporate PAC money."
Yeah.
And he started accepting it right away.
Yes.
But for this campaign, it would be a bit shocking if Booker and Gillibrand, et cetera, turned around. So I don't think they will. I don't think they will. And today's a day to celebrate them going in the right direction, okay? And so, and if you think it's because of pressure, great. Then put more progressive pressure on other politicians and continue the pressure on these folks to keep getting better and better. But when you get what you want, like at the end of the Brad Pitt Moneyball, Brad Pitt movie, Moneyball, there's a great line from Jonah Hill where he says, "You got to know when you hit a home run." Okay, so this isn't exactly a home run, but it's a solid double, right? So take our double, and yes, don't go home. Keep on fighting, keep on bringing the runs home. But let's keep it real, two significantly establishment figures like Senator Gillibrand and Senator Booker come out and go, "No more corporate PAC money." That means we're winning.
Yeah.
That's a great day in America.
Especially with Booker and Wall Street. I mean, I don't know to what extent you can still sort of maybe get around that, but yeah, I like to think that I'm being appropriately skeptical. I'm not being, I don't think, unreasonable skeptical. Some people are handed a victory and they're thinking, they set it on fire. Like, no, you're winning, you fools. So you got to take that. I don't know if this is a double. I would say maybe in the case of Cory Booker, it's a double. Although he does, I would say it's at least a single. Maybe it's a single and a half. They have those, right? You get halfway and you just stand there. Maybe
that's called that pickle thing. By the way.
They're doing a pickle. I know, but obviously, like not taking corporate PAC donations as big, and we know from his history, it's a multi-million-dollar decision. But there are steps beyond that you can go. I mean, saying we need to reform the system is good. Proposing legislation is better. supporting a constitutional convention to get money out of politics is better than that.
Yes.
And I would say that even if you're not going to go that route, the route of what you personally take, it does hit corporate PAC town. But beyond that, there's I will raise money using small donations only from individuals. You could do that. And that cuts out the corporate PACs and a lot of other elements of campaign finance that are bad for the system, or bad for us at the very least.
So look, we started with none. We now have 5 Democratic senators who are taking no corporate PAC money at all.
Let's put that up just so I can see the names.
Yeah, obviously Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, but Maria Cantwell as well from the state of Washington, and now Gillibrand Booker. So are we aware that 4 out of the 5 of those folks are going to run for president in 2020? Yes, we are aware. We follow politics. We're not unaware of that. But good. You know what's, hey, they also supported Medicare for all because they're running for president. Good. And I hope they win and actually do Medicare for all and take money out of politics. And I'm with John, of course, look, this group, End Citizens United, anyone who's working to get money out of politics, wonderful. There's some things written out there about how they support more of the establishment candidates. But if they support establishment candidates to get them to stop taking corporate PAC money, great, okay? I'll know you're for real if you're for Wolfpack and you say, no, we're not playing around. We're getting the amendment. We're not talking about little bills that are gonna lose. We're not talking about, beseeching our Republican friends and getting Mitch McConnell to promise a vote. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about an amendment, get all the money out and the private financing. And if you gotta go to a convention, go to a convention. Change. But this is the beginning of that, and it's great to see what previously, honestly, just even a couple of years ago seemed unimaginable.
Yeah.
For establishment Democrats to turn around and go, I'm done with corporate PAC money.
Yeah, and look, obviously it doesn't mean, well then let's just never check again. I will literally never look at news about whether he's actually doing it. Obviously you will, but it's one thing to say it's something that they're doing because they're gonna run, and it's another to acknowledge, yeah, I want there to be a lot of things they have to do if they're gonna wanna run. I want them to have to appeal to us. That's the whole point after all. And they actually have to follow through, but first we want to make sure that they know who is going to get them elected. Not just in the general election, but in the primary as well. Cory Booker didn't make it through the primary already. He's not like skating by and then he's going to try to get everybody he can. He knows who he's going to need to get through the primary. Yeah, he might also have to acknowledge who he's gonna have to get through first, who has a better claim to it, but we'll see about that.
Okay, but lastly on this, because it's really important, understand your strength. You were too strong, and that's why these establishment Democrats are now coming to your position.
Yeah.
Because they realize they can't win without your votes, and you won't give them your votes if you think they are corrupt. Oh, I love it, brother. So all of you out there fighting to get money out of politics, fighting for progressive positions, keep it going, because you're stronger than you realize. You're in the middle of winning. Keep on pushing forward, because if we keep on doing this, remember, over 90% of the country agrees with us. They said that this was impossible, but now we're beginning to move that boulder. And at the end, we will get an amendment. We'll get our democracy back. Wolf-pac.com, if you think that's the right way to do it, by all means. If there's another group you like, sign up for that group. But whatever you do, don't stop, keep fighting, because they're now afraid of you, which is a great place to be.
Don't sabotage yourself.
Okay.
Have a habit of doing that.
Right.
Anyway, let's do this one a little bit fast. We've got a little bit of surprising news, a little bit of good news maybe. We've had a lot of interesting, surprising state legislative special elections over the past year and a half, and we've got another one for you. This one down in Florida. It was prompted by the August resignation of State Representative Alex Miller, a Republican, midway through her first term. Now, back in November of 2016, Miller won that seat by about 16 percentage points, which is that's a nice, healthy win in a state legislative race. That district voted for Trump over Hillary Clinton by about 5 percentage points in the 2016 presidential election, so not quite as strong. She outperformed Donald Trump, but still a healthy lead for a guy who lost the popular vote. And so you might think, oh, well, I mean, who's her successor? Which Republican's gonna get it? Think again, Democrat Margaret Good defeated Republican James Buchanan in that special election 52-45, flipping a Republican win in the previous time by 16 points down to a 7-point Democrat wins. So 23 points, which is not as high as in a lot of the special election we've seen, but it's still a nice, healthy reversal.
I want to give credit to all the people that deserve it here, including Sister District, that is apparently a group that encourages liberals across the country to donate to Democrats in tight state legislative races. Good. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So we'll try to get them on Rebel headquarters. I love people fighting the good fight at the grassroots level and making a giant difference. And I also want to congratulate all the people who were amped up to go vote, especially in these races, especially in primaries. You'd be shocked at what a difference you could make if you just go out and vote. Okay, so many times in general elections we get a Hobson's choice, okay? This corporate person or that corporate person, go fight in the primaries. Now, and then they will tell you, oh, no, primaries, don't waste your money, don't waste your resources, a lot of things to discourage you, right? And then there's races like this, which are general elections, and you've got a good Democrat versus a corporate Republican, and they discourage you by saying, oh, don't bother. They won by 16 points, there's no way. Well, it turns out, I mean, how many times have we seen now 23-point swings, 39-point swings, et cetera, all over the country? So don't let them keep you down. Go out there and register. By the way, we're trying to make it as simple for everybody because primaries are coming for all of the House and for a third of the Senate. So tytnetwork.com/register. That gets you to a place where you can just enter your state. It's an official government website. We redirect you there, okay? Because it's just easier to our URL is easier. Theirs is a mess, okay? So go to tytnetwork.com/register and go to your own state. Find out how to register. It's really simple, and then find out when the primaries are and go vote in them. You can and have made a giant difference. Now in Florida, we're starting to take back those legislatures. We got a lot of work ahead of us because between 2009 and 2016, the Democrats lost over 1,000 seats at the state level. 1,000. Now we're taking them back one by one. So get out there and fight, 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 because right now in Ohio, so-called moderate Republican John Kasich has closed down every clinic in the state. So now you have a right to choose, but not in Ohio. If you're rich, maybe you can go outside the state of Ohio. If you're near the border, maybe you could find a clinic outside of Ohio. And how does he do that? They vote, you don't vote. They gain all the legislature, they gain the governor, and then they pass anything they like. In South Dakota, over 70% of the voters, Republicans and Democrats alike, voted for a ballot initiative, again, to take corruption out of the system, to ban lobbyist gifts. And then the Republicans came in and said, I don't care about your ballot initiative. What do you think, that's democracy? And they just ripped it up. And they said, no, we're just not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. And then they took a picture where they bragged and showed the gifts they got from lobbyists. Oh man, oh Jesus, they rubbed it in your face. As long as you keep voting for, look, and there's plenty of corrupt Democrats, and don't vote for corporate Democrats either, okay? But almost all the Republicans are pro-corruption. They say, yeah, I want the lobbyists' money, I want their gifts, I want their donations. I'm gonna call it free speech from a corporation, which is a person.
In the gerrymandering.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna take it. So don't let them do it to you. Go out there and kick their ass. They just did it in Florida, just last week, a rural stretch, slightly outside of St. Louis in Missouri, another seat that was Republican. Democrats got it now. A little while back, a rural part of Wisconsin, deeply Republican, that was over a 30-point swing, now Democratic. Go out and vote, you'd be shocked at what you could do, including changing the world.
Yeah, and it's probably too late for this cycle, but after you register to vote, start looking into running possibly. It's not for everybody, it's extremely complicated, it's hard on yourself, it's hard on your finances, on your family, but if you can do it, now is exactly when you should be doing it.
Okay, watch Rebel headquarters, okay? The guys, the people that are running all across the country right now, they already made that decision however long ago, a year ago, et cetera. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're the most real people you have ever seen in your life. And they gave up their jobs, they gave up their comfortable life or not comfortable life, depending on what job they had. One of the women was working in a chicken factory, putting diapers on chicken. You know why? That was the job she has in West Virginia. She's got to do what she's got to do.
See, I do that, but just as a hobby.
Okay, better than some other people's hobbies. Anyway, and they're running for office, and they need small dollar donations of volunteers.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to run, go out there and volunteer and make a difference. And if you want to watch those interviews, youtube.com/TYTpolitics, or just become a member, where you'll get all of that as part of all of our shows. And that's, of course, tytnetwork.com/join. Okay, we got to take another quick break here.
Yes,
when we come back,
what should be the biggest story of the week?
Exactly.
I think.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Super last thing writes in, the thing is that they say that now, referring to Gillibrand and Booker, but after they get the nomination, the money will flood in. They just want to steal Sanders' thunder, and when he's out of the picture, the money will roll in.
We will see.
We'll see. It is possible.
Yeah. I'm just saying there's a difference between thinking that might happen and watching for it, and just knee-jerk saying, I don't believe anything this person says ever. Some people have that position. And I'm not saying that there aren't some people who deserve that, but I think it's being applied to people that it doesn't fit with. People can be persuaded, they can be moved by political pressure. That doesn't mean that you just back off and just say, oh, well then I guess he'll do what he's gonna do. No, you keep watching. But some people, like there's a nihilism in some people to just say, no, this category of people, I will literally never believe a single thing about them. And you can't descend into that because it's self-sabotaging.
Gabby Marita, on the other hand, says single or double, it doesn't matter. Only another hit will put points on the board, and that's what really matters. Okay, great.
In the analogy, that actually makes sense.
As opposed to John's runner getting caught between first and second.
It's the most exciting time.
Okay, all right.
Sandlot, come on, that was great.
All right, Septime Patterson says Bernie was right. That's all. And truth be told, on YouTube Super Chat, which also helps the show when you write in that way, truth be told says will they still take AIPAC money? And the answer is yes. I don't know if those two in particular take it, although I'd be surprised if they didn't, but that is a single issue PAC, not a corporate PAC. Okay, all right, what's next?
Let's do it. Sometimes news slips beneath the radar of most people and most outlets, even though at times it can be, in a very real sense, literally the most important story imaginable. And we've got one for you today that has to do with the future of our civilization. And it's not particularly sexy, but it does have to do with whether or not we can exist as a species. And so this has to do with an analysis of satellite data from NASA and European satellites conducted with data from the past 25 years that shows that yes, the seas are rising, and much more importantly, they are rising faster and faster every single year. And now we're seeing, well, I'll give you some more numbers in just a second, but the study says global mean sea level has risen by roughly 3 millimeters per year since 1993, which resulted in nearly 3 inches of sea level rise over the past 25 years. Now that may seem small on a year-by-year basis, but the thing about years is that they keep on coming, and the thing about the ocean is that it's really big, and so it takes a lot to raise it inches. And over enough decades, that will get worse. But here's the more important information. After reviewing data from satellites studying ice sheets in Greenland and the Antarctic, the researchers noted the rate of sea level rise over those past 25 years slowly increased by about 0.08 millimeters per year, which again, on a yearly basis is a small thing, but just like with compound interest, it adds up over time in a big way. Extrapolated out over the next 80 years or so, this means the Earth could see a 2-foot jump in sea level in that time period. Now 0.08 millimeters, not gonna get your shoes wet. 2 feet, if you live in Miami, if you live in Bangladesh, if you live in the Philippines, or so many areas where literally billions of people live. 2 feet is the difference between living and swimming. And humans are better at one than the other. I don't want us to have to choose. So we got some more data, but what do you think of these initial results?
Okay, so first of all, if you live in Miami, you won't.
Yeah, you won't.
When the oceans rise 2 feet, you're gone. Miami's gone. And it sounds like hyperbole, like, no, come on, don't be ridiculous. No, look, and we're talking about, that is by 2100, okay? So That's actually not that long. We're in 2018. That's 82 years from now. And it, by the way, it doesn't happen just at once. If you're thinking like, oh, that's okay, I won't be around. It keeps rising throughout the years. It doesn't go from 0 to 2 feet. It'll get to 1 foot before it gets to 2 feet. And by that time, Miami's probably already gone. And you know, cities like Miami and even Los Angeles here, we haven't been around that long. So I think that I saw a shirt that Miami Beach has been around only since 1915. These are all rough, of course. It might have been when it got incorporated or whatever. That's only about 100 years, right? And 100 years from now, it won't exist.
Yeah.
And so now look, let me give you the context for this, for what the scientists did here. They're like, look, we want to make sure we've got this right. So they did coastal measurements, but they're worried about obviously the tides. Obviously they can account for that, but so they go to satellite imagery to double check. Satellite imagery exists since 1993, but the problem was in 91 there was the eruption of Pinatubo, and that caused the sea levels to rise. And they said we want to take that out because we don't want that to seem like it's related to climate change or anything like that. So they're actually going more conservative on sea level rises. And they go through all these different calculations. And I mention that to you for 2 reasons. One is some significant percentage of Americans have been brainwashed into believing all these scientists who go through these calculations, these endless, technical, detailed calculations, are all lying. All the numbers are made up. The satellites didn't really take those pictures. They didn't actually do that math. All of them, all of them were bought by the Chinese.
Fake news.
Like, no, if you know the details of the work that they put, their life's work that they put into this, to believe that it's a hoax. I mean, look, I get it. I keep wanting to call you stupid because it is an unbelievably stupid thing to believe, but it really isn't about intelligence, it's about ignorance. And you've been brainwashed by the Fox News of the world and Donald Trump's into believing outrageous, insane things like that. All of the millions of scientists in the world are part of a global conspiracy. No, they do math, they do science. And the second point I wanted to make, and why I brought that up, is that they say these are the most conservative estimates. So they're like, look, we're trying in every way to make it as conservative as possible. We don't want to get into hyperbole. Besides which, we're scientists, we're generally skeptical, and we don't want to, overstate things, etc. The high end of how much the sea level could rise by the end of the century is 250 centimeters. That is over 8 feet. There are ice shelves on the land. When they fall into the ocean, they are then in the ocean. That is one of many phenomena. But that's a fact. The Chinese didn't make that up, and it adds up.
Yeah, and actually even slightly more important, if we go to graphic 12, the 55% of the rise that we're seeing can actually be attributed to water expansion from just hotter water. Hotter water is bigger. I don't know if I think everybody knows that, but I don't know for sure.
No. Are you kidding me? You think conservatives know that? They think, oh, it snowed. There's no such thing as climate change.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's very easy for conservatives who aren't interested in science to just say they're all bought out. I don't understand what they're doing. It's a bunch of numbers. It's scary. If you'd like to see what some of these scientists' actual work is like, in a couple of months, my documentary series, True North, is going to be coming out. These are the people that I was riding around in a sealing vessel up in the Arctic for a couple of months last year. They do work on this sort of information, so you're going to see their work. Now, I know what you're going to say, John, you were bought off too by the Chinese, and I don't have anything in response to that, sorry. Maybe I was, I don't know. But also, and again, the 2 feet thing, by 2100, it sounds like, okay, that sounds really scary, but I'm probably not even gonna live. I eat a lot of bacon and a lot of sugar. I'm not gonna live that long. But here's the interesting thing about the water, is it's not just, this is the ocean. It changes over time, and sometimes there's bad weather, and sometimes it gets really stormy. And so 2 feet average is really bad. 1 foot average, which is gonna happen way earlier when you have a storm surge or when you have a hurricane, is way worse than what we have right now, and it is not going to take long for us to get there. The 2 feet, we're already gonna be way away from Miami at that point because it will have been devastated by so many intense storms that it will be uninhabitable, even before it's permanently underwater.
Now look, maybe this is too doomsday-ish, and some of you will say I'm getting carried away, but when I go to Vegas is for a different reason. I look around those unreal palaces that they have built in Las Vegas, and I think one day there's some chance I'm going to come back here with my kids, and it's going to be like old Roman leftovers, right?
Ruins.
Ruins, thank you, I was looking for that word. Okay, it's a complicated word, even though I have the best words. Anyway, it's gonna be, and because at some point we're gonna have a devastating economic collapse. Okay, that's a different story. Every time I go to Miami, and I try to go to Miami as often as possible, I soak it in, because I know tick-tock, tick-tock. In my lifetime, I can nearly guarantee you Miami's gonna be wiped out. Look, some portions of Miami might survive. South Beach, no chance it survives. These scientists, they're not making the numbers up. We can see it with our own eyes. Just because CNN doesn't talk about it and the whole world doesn't concentrate on it, actually the whole world does, just we don't, America doesn't. Just because the American media and the American politicians are corrupt and don't talk about it, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. The ocean is definitely rising.
Yeah.
Even if we acted quickly, which we're not, to
going
fight
the opposite direction.
Yeah, we're going the opposite direction. Even if we fought super hard to end climate change, Miami's probably still doomed. But in the current rate that we're going, there is no way that it survives. So I know some people say don't say that because every day that a goofball goes to Miami goes, that's still around, right? They're gonna say, oh, well, no, you guys were wrong. But facts are stubborn things, man.
Yeah.
And the ocean is not interested in your feelings or in Fox News propaganda. Yeah. When it rises, it will wipe you out.
And finally, if you think this research coming out from the satellites that we have, all the scientists, if you think that the White House isn't paying attention and isn't doing anything, you would be wrong. The White House's 2019 budget request proposes cutting the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's climate research initiatives by 37%. So if this research is scary to you, maybe we won't have it in a couple of years. We don't have to worry about it anymore.
We're gonna lose major cities.
Think of Tampa.
I just went to New Orleans. It's already underwater, man. Look, there's an argument to be made that that was not a brilliant place to build a city, and they built it there a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, but it's got. I mean, there's so many cities that are going to be gone.
There's tools you can use where you can plot in a certain amount of additional warming, and at 2%, which is we're definitely going to hit 2%. I did LA. And there is a bunch of water that comes in an arm through Santa Monica and through the Mar Vista, Culver City area. And my house, I don't live near the beach. I'm not even close to the beach. My house would be underwater by about 2100 with 2 degrees of warming. I live by the highway. It's not even close to the ocean and it's underwater.
The only good news is the oceans will one day rise up and swallow up Wall Street. That is near the water. True. Manhattan is in trouble.
Manhattan's doomed. Manhattan's doomed.
Oh yeah, Manhattan's in a world of trouble.
Yeah, there's a great novel by Kim Stanley Robinson who does great science fiction with a lot of science in it. It's like 2061, I think it's called, and it takes place in flooded Manhattan, and it's just awesome. You should read it.
Damn, I forgot how over time we are. But the Mercury, can we do
super fast? Okay.
Super fast Mercury.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to be thrown into the ocean.
Because we're not done with doom and gloom yet. Okay.
Okay, more bad news for you when it comes to the environment and the combination of a heating atmosphere and some of the things that have been locked in the Arctic for a long period of time. There may be more than 15 million gallons of mercury buried in the permafrost of the northern hemisphere, roughly twice as much mercury as you can find in all of the rest of the Earth's soils and ocean and atmosphere, which is Earth. All of that is locked in the permafrost. Oh my God, thank God the permafrost is permafrost. It's perma, it's always gonna be locked in there. Except that it might not be, because according to a 2013 study, the northern hemisphere is going to lose anywhere from 30 to 99% of its permafrost by 2100, assuming current human greenhouse gas emissions continue unabated. Which means that amongst other things, and we have talked about other things like anthrax and other sorts of long dormant diseases, viruses, things like that, huge amounts of carbon which means that you get a sort of ironic acceleration of climate change once the permafrost is melted. We also will have an unimaginable amount of mercury, which will go from being locked in permanent ice, icy ground in the tundra up there, and now will begin flowing out into the waterways, into the oceans and all of that, accumulating far down the food chain and then slowly working its way up to animals like humans.
They say the mercury might get in the water once it melts. Of course, it's melting from the permafrost. Of course it's gonna get in the water. It's impossible to stop it from getting in the water. Then you know what happens? There's mercury in the water. We're screwed. So we're almost literally playing out a Lord of the Rings scene. You know, when the dwarves dig into the earth and they keep digging and digging. That's what we're doing with fossil fuels. Okay, we're doing the oil, we're drilling into the ground, we're doing the fracking, drilling into the ground, getting the gas. And the dwarves keep drilling and drilling and drilling until, oops, they release the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Now, in their case, it was the Balrog. In our case, it's mercury and methane. So even if the methane and the mercury was not released from the permafrost and from the ice caps, we'd still be doomed on the carbon alone, on the greenhouse gases alone.
Yeah.
But the methane makes it so much worse.
Yeah.
And then there's the mercury in the water. So that's our Balrog, and its release is nearly inevitable.
Wow.
So again, it's not that I'm being too doom and gloom. It's that most people don't have the facts at their disposal. If you knew all the facts as the scientists do, like the scientists, you'd feel like you're trapped in some sort of weird science fiction movie where you're at the beginning, but you can't break out of the beginning. You keep telling the president and everyone else, you don't understand, a disaster is coming.
It's Groundhog's Day, but there's no snow in the future.
And the next day,
how it works.
you keep telling them, but in this movie, they never believe you. And so,
hashtag climate change, you shall not pass.
hashtag the Balrog is coming. All right, that's it for the first hour.
We had great other stories.
I know,
we can't do them. We're so over.
Yes. You know what replaced the other news stories? News.
Yes, that's true.
The shooting in Florida. Okay,
Yes.
it's almost as if we do a news show. Now, among the different things we'll discuss in the next hour, we'll give you an update on that shooting. The story of justice in America, that West Virginia cop and what happened to him. First, it was grotesque injustice. Now, a tiny bit of justice now that the case has been settled. And then I'll just tease it this way: 3 Trump properties applied for 144 openings for seasonal jobs, including the so-called Winter White House, Mar-a-Lago. Now, try to guess, of the 144, how many went to foreign workers? How many went to Americans? Okay, we'll come back and tell you.